Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. Hello, it's a Thursday night. Another week is almost done. Let me check the audio first. Check. Oh, it's kind of... I had another update, so I'm trying to increase the volume as much as I can. This should be okay. Okay, please let me know if the audio is not that strong to your side. I will try my best to adjust it here, but it's probably not as strong as usual. Alright, so this is the Sashiko Live Streaming where I stitch Sashiko while talking about Sashiko Stories. And I usually bring some topics, and today I brought my mother to my daughter. But it does not have to be this specific topic, it can be anything. So if you have any requests or questions about the cultural side of Sashiko, this is not a lecture, this is not a webinar, this is not a tutorial, so I will not answer the questions about techniques. There are a lot of videos online already on my channels, so please check that. So I would like to make it as a place for us to stitch together for 1 hour or so. So if you can bring something together, that'd be great to stitch together. All right. I think the audio sounds good, huh? Okay, that's good. Okay. I will switch the camera. Well, as always, I have another pile of same Sashiko stitching with the same patterns. I don't know if I would like to do it more or not, but since this is the things I'm doing right now. In fact, though, I am doing completely different things outside of the live streaming. And it's really... I don't wanna admit it. I really don't wanna admit it. So the main reason of me starting this Asunoha stitching is to prove that the pattern is not the reason we stitch. That's one of the things I find in the Sashiko in English. Many people misunderstand that Sashiko is about patterns. And yes, pattern is a very important part. Pattern is very important perspective of Sashiko. At the same time, it's not the whole of Sashiko. So I wanted to kind of prove that I can stitch the same patterns almost forever. Because what I enjoy is not really the pattern itself, but more like the rhythm or stitching, conversation to the fabric, you name it. So those kind of outside of the patterns I enjoy more. So in order to kind of prove that, I decided to stitch 100 meters of these same patterns last year. And I've been stitching these patterns for like what? Almost a year and a half. And I've been saying that a little bit here and there, especially in Japanese, but I'm getting a little bit of tired of this pattern. This is the main pattern that I stitch often, and this is the easiest pattern for me. I don't have to think. My hand stitch for me, so I can focus on the live streaming where I just talk. At the same time, a little bit. So pattern is important too, but pattern is not the only factor. At some point I have to admit it. It's almost done. I believe that I can finish it by the end of this winter, which is I will bring it outside when it's warm. So I hope that not hope, that's the plan. Hello everybody. So yeah, I'm stitching something completely different outside of this, and I will probably share it sometimes in the Instagram or somewhere else. But if I bring it to the live, I can technically bring it to the live streaming, but I don't. Two reasons. I might not talk as much. I don't want to be that quiet in the live streaming. And the second thing is, you know, although I say often that there is no right and wrong in Sashiko, there is a right and wrong in the patterns. When we try to stitch the patterns, there's always right. Like, not a right, like there's a mistake. Proper way to finish it, and also that there's a mistake. And I don't want to make mistakes. So that's why I don't bring that here. I hope though that you or anybody stitching Sashiko find something more important than the design or pattern. It's and you may of course ask the question like, what is that something more? Which I cannot verbalize it. If I could, I would have done it already, but it's something that we cannot really describe in word. And I hope that you can feel that by stitching. And I probably brought up my daughter, my mom, a little bit in the Instagram. The reason I keep sharing the Sashiko story is to pass down this Sashiko culture as whole as possible, because the Sashiko introduced in English right now is quite simplified. So I'd like to make sure that I can leave as much stuff as possible to preserve this culture. But more selfish level, more primitive level of my desire, it's for my daughter, or it's for me to be better person to my daughter. So it's quite selfish. And she is American. She was born in the U.S. She has she has a mixed race background. At the same time, she is the American. So the first language is English, and she will probably not understand what I'm saying here. She will not go through the exactly same experience as I do, or not even similar experience. So although I said that I cannot explain or describe that in the language, it is my wish or even challenge to try to explain that so I can pass it down to my daughter. It has been 6 years and I still cannot fully explain that, but I hope that some of the message is somewhere on the internet. So that goes to my mom. That's today's topic. I don't remember the last time I talked about my mother. She has not been different at all. She has been always the same person. It's kind of crazy, but last 30 years I don't see her. It's all consistent. It's what she does for Sashiko is very, very consistent. Her work improved, I guess her work improves. She tried to adapt new influence, inspiration, and her work is getting more, I don't want to say better, but interesting, more interesting. At the same time as what she does as the kind of Sashiko stitcher or in the principal level, it is still the same as the person, the mother I was spending time together in, like when I was a child. So it is quite interesting how one person can be so consistent. And that consistency is something I would like to pass it down to my daughter. So it's like, this whole live streaming stories and teaching Sashiko. Those are, of course, I would like to make sure that Sashiko, not make sure, I would like to try my best to contribute to preserve this culture. At the same time, it's quite selfish for me to be able to share those stories to the next generation, which is my daughter for that matter. And it doesn't have to be me. It does not have to be me. If I leave enough story, it does not have to be me who teach her that. It can be anybody else. So recently I see a lot of people stitching. Well, my dream is so I have been teaching Sashiko for the last 5 years, 6 years. Many people apply Sashiko to many platforms like quilting, their bags, not bags, and their fashion. But my passion or what I'd like to do is to stitch on the denim, the denim, stitching on the denim for the purpose of making it stronger, not the purpose of mending per se. There's nothing wrong with mending, but at the same time, I like seeing people stitching on the denim with as small stitches as possible, not like big stitches. And I occasionally come across those Sashiko jacket, Sashiko denim, Sashiko stitched garment, and I kind of I happen to come. It's probably coincident. It's not a coincidence because I'm part of the group, but I don't really look for those photos, but the photo comes to me. And so far, interestingly, those who I can feel the rhythm in the denim are those who took my workshop. So that is the best like a return that I can imagine. Stitching itself can be done by anybody. The point is how much they can do in a limited time. If one requires, let's say, years to finish one denim jacket, that's a great art, that's a great product, that's a great stitching, but that's a little too much time for one piece. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's really not a realistic for the ordinary stitching. One person doesn't have that many years to stitch on one jacket or one pants. So ideally, like month or a few months is kind of, or even weeks, is the kind of reasonable time frame. And when they stitch in that very, very timely manners, the stitches start talking. They will kind of start communicating who the stitches are. And I can read those stories behind, not a story itself, but I can tell the difference. And seeing those results makes me always smile. I like to join. I like to jump into the conversation, and that's great. But at the same time, I try to be kind of quiet in the social media. In some other platform, I am very loud. I'm very noisy in my platform. But when it comes to joining somebody else's platform, I try to be as decent or quiet as possible. Yeah, so that's gonna be this is something I would like to. I dreamed of. I have another dream. I have a dream in Sashiko, and this is one dream that I really, really wanted to make it happen. More like, it's not like teaching per se. It's not like teaching from me to you and then the end. It's more like a handing something, like I feel like it's a relay, like those, like a, I don't know if it's English. Like phew. Oh my gosh, I cannot think of the word in English. Oh. So 400-meter race? Oh, come on. What do we call that? ちょっと待って、I cannot think of, I cannot believe I forgot that word. It's, I can think of that in Japanese, but oh, track and field. There we go. Whew. Track and field. That's the word. My wife is almost professional, was almost professional in track and field, and wow, that's bad. Yep, passing the button. That's what I feel like. That's the best thing. That's the best reward or that I can feel. So relay is also English. Okay, that's good. Relay, the relay. There's so many words that I confused with some other language. Okay. So yes, track and field, and that's the. Just a second. 6 years ago, when I decided to teach Sashiko, I don't think I imagined this view. I don't remember it too much. The dreams or goals that I have right now is developed over some kind of negative experience. I had some experience in the last 5 years, and then every time I experience that, my goal or my dream has gained some weight. Like 6 years ago, I did not think that I wanted to even pass down that. I wanted to preserve it. I wanted to have Sashiko in 10 years, 20 years from now. But I was not eager, or I was not passionate, or I did not even feel the need of teaching back then much. Because sort of, I did not know the reality. I did not really know reality, and I did not think of the possibility of the Sashiko being something different. That was outside of my imagination. The biggest influence of my Sashiko is my mother, in a good way and bad way. But she has not changed at all in the last 3 years. So for me, Sashiko is something we don't really change. The culture is supposed to change, but there are some element that does not change over time in everybody's life. And for me, that was Sashiko. So it was quite shocking when I realized that Sashiko is changing its form without acknowledging the sort of origin. The Sashiko is becoming completely different in Japan, so it is happening. The change is happening in Japan as well. At the same time, there are Japanese people who cares or who try to who see the same view as I do. I'm not the only one. So I was not really worried about it back then. But yeah, then I realized like I might be the only one who can do that. So like, okay, then I probably yeah, recently I started saying like I'm the only one who can do that. I tried to be not a nice, but I wasn't sure. I did not want to make that strong statement that I'm the only one. But come to think of it, I am probably the only one. Only one who can speak English from the Sashiko background. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to represent Sashiko in English because there are so many Japanese Sashiko artisans in Japan that should be introduced before me. But they don't speak English. They're not willing to be interviewed. They don't want to be like my mother did not want to show her face until I really convinced her to do it. So it is not always the easiest choice. So I really don't want to say that I'm the only one who can speak up about it, but when it comes to English, I think so there are many Japanese who can speak English and happen to find Sashiko and practice it for a few years and then decided to speak up. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, and then that's great. That's great. That's how the culture is spreading. But that's not the same as what I do. There's a big difference between the person who was in Sashiko, happened to learn English later on in their life, and then trying to kind of connect their experience and outside of their experience, versus somebody who could speak English before they met Sashiko, and then they decided to build their career on that. I think that's two different things. And for the category of speaking up about Sashiko in English, I am probably the only one. If I'm not, please let me know. Like if you know anybody who is willing to speak English, if you know anybody who is willing to make a conversation in English, who is from the Japanese Sashiko background. So somebody who had a Sashiko before the English. I don't think I can find that. And then sometimes, you might probably request that, why don't you make the interview in Japanese so that I can put the translation on that. And that's a brilliant idea, and I wish I have time and finance budget to do that. At the same time, I really have to be careful in translation when I do that. So I'm really trying to hesitant. Not trying to hesitant. I'm very hesitant to try to do that. I should, but I'm really scared of twisting their word. Even if I try my best to not twist it, in the process of translation, it will be translation by me. We can hire somebody else, but at the same time, that's going to be translation of that person. And what they translate will be our interpretation of the interviewee, and what you receive is going to be the interpretation of what the translator made. So that's kind of what I'm saying, like recently. it is very difficult. It's natural for us to have very big gap between what I'm trying to speak or share and then what is introduced right now in English, because it is the it's the interpretation of translation of interpretation. What do you have? What is available in English right now is somebody's interpretation of somebody's translation of somebody's interpretation in Japan. Let me repeat that. I don't think I explained enough. So the Sashiko information introduced in English right now is a summary of someone who is not Japanese or who can speak English or who can speak non-Japanese language, their interpretation of translation, who might not know anything about Sashiko, or who might know, but that translation of some Japanese people who interpret their Sashiko in their own way. So I wish I could really deliver my mother's message to you directly without me being the in between. But again, that's like a dream. That's why I say that I might be the only one to do that. That being said, the best way, in order to make it happen, there's one way to do it. There's one way to make that message happen. That is the days, ideally days, at least hours of time spending or talking to my mother with just Google translation. That's gonna suck, but at the same time, they will share something. It's interesting, like meeting it is very, very, very powerful. Like thanks to the internet, we can make this nice gathering, but at the same time, meeting in person is very, very powerful to communicate. So one day I hope that I can bring my mother around to the US. Do you think the Sashiko artisans in Japan, such as your mother, understand the importance or meaning of what you're trying to do? Oh, that's a very good question. I guess I'm asking, do they believe they have a message to convey? My mother don't. She does not. She is quite simple. So she feels happy that there are audience or people who listen to her son's voice. At the same time, she does not, it's not her attention if her work will be acknowledged or not. As long as, it's so crazy, but as long as she can make stuff, she's kind of happy. But she has to be able to make it. That's the whole point. Like, if she stops making, she will probably very be miserable. But as long as she can make, she's happy. So my mother is a little bit of a different example, but to answer that question, it depends who I talk to, but some of the Japanese artisans with many years of experience understand the magnitude of what I'm trying to do. There was one artisan, well, I don't know if I can call her artisan, but I think she's the artist or artisan. I don't know, like I don't want to define her title, but she has been doing Sashiko more than my age, so 50 years, like 40, 50 years. She kind of apologized to me. She apologized to me that this was something that they should have done before, but they couldn't do it because of the English. So she she offered to help me, and I am very grateful that she's helping me a lot. At the same time, it's really the coincidence. It's really coincident. I probably talked about it last week as well, but there is the possibility of me not being able to speak English, which means that the fact that I can speak, I can communicate to you like this is purely coincident. And if I were not be able to speak English, no matter what I think or feel, that message will not be conveyed. So my goal, like actually I'm supposed to talk to the other Japanese Sashiko artisans, but not many people. Okay, as a summary, they don't believe that they have a message to convey that strongly. They are proud of what they do, and they like Sashiko, of course, and they are very, very, very proud of what they do. But I don't think that's something they should really share or speak up about. That's why they kind of get satisfied by just making it. And I'm like, I sometimes wish I could be doing that too. Like, I sometimes wish, like, you know, I want to just finish what I'm doing just by stitching. That would be fun. What about the lady who comes to the gathering sometimes? I think her name is Reiko. She talks about designing a kimono so the stitching would reflect light. Should just had an ad so missed. Oh my gosh, there was an ad. Oh yeah, it's I will repeat that. Which one was that? Sorry, there was an ad. I forgot about it. I will come back. I'm sorry about it. I will re-say those things. Sorry. There's one comment before I ask you, Susan. I'm not ask. I ask you to, Susan. My daughter is in Japan on honeymoon. Ooh. That's awesome. Congratulations to your daughter. What I want from there, I asked for Sashiko kit. I own a retail shop and sell Sashiko clothes and supplies, but I want some directly from Japan. That's good. That's good. Well, congratulations to your daughter. So yes, my mother is like that. She's like a child. I mean, I shouldn't be saying about my mother like she's a child, but she is like a child. It emphasized, I confirmed, I felt stronger when I got my daughter because, wow, like this is it. All right, this is it. Yes, the Reiko is Reiko Sensei, actually, for that matter, at this moment. She is one of the sort of a star that I would like to introduce to. Does your mother or other artisans in Japan take commission, or do they simply create what they wish to, then sell it? As long as I know, they don't take commissions. At least they don't take commissions in English. There's a very, very, very big gap, like not a gap, barrier of language, especially when it comes to commissions. The maker has to understand what the customer want. So it is quite difficult to take commission work. And it is probably it's my mission as well. One of the mission that I would like to make it happen is to kind of create the platform that I can be the bridge between them and customers who wants to ask for the commission work. I don't think they will accept any commission work without the proper Japanese translator. I cannot think of any. I cannot speak on behalf of other Japanese people, but as long as I know, in my I don't want to say group, but the student I taught Sashiko to, we gather every 2 weeks. I don't think they're willing to take the commission from non-Japanese customer. If they're Japanese, they probably take it too. They are, actually. They are making on their requests, yes. So they do take commission, but probably English is the key for that. So yes, it is kind of my goal, my mission to kind of make a stage for that matter, like make a stage for them to dance. I would like to introduce, but it's not like, hey, what's up? Why don't you be on the stage? I wish it was that easy, but it's not gonna be like that. It has to go through very, very, very proper introduction to the asking and stuff like that. So it takes some time. It takes some time. It takes some communication, introduction, involvement. So, but they are. That's a good point. They are. That's a very positive news, is that there are people who are wishing to share their work. So. At the same time, though, it's my very, very, very personal preference. My personal preference. I have done commission work. I have seen other people doing commission work. My mother can take. Actually, my mother takes some commission work for that matter. I'm sorry, I've completely forgot. My mother can. My mother takes the commission work, but it's not really the commission work we imagine. Like, I have a denim, so can you please stitch on that? That kind of commission, she does not take it. The commission work she takes is, she offers what she thinks it's the best for them after sort of the hearings. She asks what they like among what she had created. After that hearing, she is gonna make 2 pieces based on that, like a hearing, and the one can decide to purchase it. If they don't like it, they don't have to purchase it. But she does not work for the typical commission work, like the customer asking the artisans to do very specific things. My mother doesn't do that. Going back to Susan's topic, I cannot speak on behalf of everybody else again, but they are understanding. They are getting to realize the importance of their voice, I think. And that's my, that's my mission. That's my work. That's my job, to make them feel comfortable And, you know, the worst case scenario, not a worst case scenario, but the biggest fear I have is to, how do you say that? Okay, how can we say that? Just a second. The biggest fear I have in sharing the story is that I start creating my own stories in my brain. When, like, as I have a lot of interaction in English, I kind of get what they want to hear. As the result, I may say something that it's not the same as what it is in Japanese. So I have to be very, very careful. I can twist it. I can twist the word and nobody will probably find out that easily. And I just don't, but that's what the other people are doing, and I don't like it. And that's what I'm trying to go against. So that's why I prioritize the Japanese live streaming as well as those gathering more than anything. So if I start saying something bad, not bad, something contradicting to what I usually say, they can stop me. I keep asking, please stop me if I start saying something different. And some of them can understand English, so some of them are here, probably here today. I beg them to say something if they feel something very weird. It might not be as obvious as kind of joke or funny things. Like, for example, if I start showing off some of the watch I have while stitching, and if I start saying, like, you can get this watches, you can make like this much money if you start stitching, then everybody knows what he lost his mind, right? Wow, you know, Atsushi got some bad medicine, or you know, he lost himself. Or that might be the time I really, really need money for some bigger reasons, like, you know. Well, in that case, I will be honest, and I probably say I need money. But if you know, if I start showing that, it's obvious that I lost my mind, I completely became different person. But little tiny subtle difference or subtle change can happen without me realizing it. And that's what I'm really, really worried about. My mother doesn't change, but I think humans are supposed to change little by little. So I am changing. I am changing. I am much more direct in comparison to 3 years ago. I probably did not use the word dislike or I don't like. I very much. This is the 2023 that I use it. I don't think I used it even last year. I don't like it, or you know, I dislike it. It's quite uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me to specify my preference. Of course, I talk about those preferences behind the live streaming, but not the. Well, I don't know. Live streaming may be something someplace I I kind of spill my word, so it might be wrong. But in the Instagram, I'm pretty sure that I did not really write the dislike or like, not like dislike or didn't like or doesn't like. So yeah. Well, it's gonna take some time, but bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. It's slow, but it is going to happen one by one. The most important thing, though, is that I do not trust people's word who do not stitch. If I stop stitching, that's the end of my it's not gonna happen. If I stop stitching, I'm not gonna be online. But if I stop stitching, focusing on the speaking up or focusing on this kind of speaking up, if I become like an activist, then I will lose my voice in Sashiko. I may be a completely different kind of activist, which I don't plan to and I don't want to. But I don't. If I stop stitching, all of my saying right now, right here, will lose the voice. So it goes to everybody who I try to introduce. Anybody can like Sashiko, like those people who purchase Sashiko for their hobby or for their fashion. They are all important part of Sashiko. But when it comes to introducing somebody as the expert or the artisans or next generation, it has to be the person who stitch. I mean, who actually do it. I don't think it's a lot to ask. I don't think it's a lot to ask. Sorry. So the microphone is okay today? The mixer is saying that my voice is lower than usual. And I can kind of, it's maximum. And there's a software called OBS, I guess, OBS. And they asked for the update this morning. And every time I update, the setting gets a little bit messed up. And I don't need to purchase another microphone. It's just purely the setting issue. So if my voice is not as strong as usual or it's kind of far, please let me know so that I can try to fix it over this coming week. By the way, we will do the live streaming on next Tuesday. It's the Thanksgiving night, but I think I can do it. As of now, we don't have any plan for the Thanksgiving besides the family dinner. Like, you know, we're not American. My daughter is American, but we're immigrants, so we really do not have to celebrate Thanksgiving. So unless we are invited to somebody's party, I can't do the live streaming. So I will update, but most likely I will be here stitching. My wife has to be on call, so we don't really celebrate, like we don't follow well, we try to follow for my daughter, but at the same time it's not that significantly important for us to celebrate the holidays in the US. Not like other, people who are born and raised here. So my wife is helping others by taking the on-call shift. So she cannot go far, she cannot drink, she has to be always sober and, sort of like standby. So we do like a little bit of celebration, a little bit of a dinner thing. She's a vegetarian, so I don't have to cook turkey. I might get some little turkey and make some dish, but we don't really cook the whole turkey. That's gonna be a whole turkey for only myself. Can be a little bit of nightmare. Your voice sounds good. Not low. That's good. Thank you. That's great. That's great. That's great. Not this way, but it's. Yeah, I really hope that you will keep stitching. The winter is a great time for us to stitch together. It's not hot. When we stitch very small pieces, the temperature doesn't really matter. But when we stitch the big piece like denim or larger than that, the temperature matters. And sweating does matter too. So it's it's really the winter work, winter hobby. I mean, I'm not saying we cannot do it over summer, but the side dishes are the best part of the Thanksgiving. The turkey is sort of boring. A side dishes is what? What is the side dishes? I know the stuffing. What is that? Wow, I cannot think of it. So it's not a bad thing, but I came to the US when I was 19 as the international student, right? And did I date to any American? I don't think so. So, like, good friend. I had a friend who was American, but they don't really invite like, if it's a boyfriend girlfriend, they probably invite to the family dinner. But we would not. My buddies didn't really invite. I did not want to go neither, but. And then I, got married to my wife and I came to the US. She's not American, so I really probably don't have the experience of the very traditional Thanksgiving dinner, or even like Thanksgiving Day. Is Super Bowl the Thanksgiving? See, it's probably Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl, watching the Super Bowl, eating something, beans, I guess. Side dish, stuffing, sweet potatoes, sweet potato casserole, mashed potatoes, green beans casserole, mac and cheese. Mac and cheese! I did not know mac and cheese is the part of the Thanksgiving dish. Alright, I can convince my daughter that mac and cheese is good enough. So this might be pretty passive aggressive, but if I start teaching what the Thanksgiving is to other people, how to cook the turkey, how to cook Thanksgiving meal for the other Japanese, that is quite bad. You can tell, right? Like, I am living in the US. I know what Thanksgiving is, but I have not been through that. Like, I have never experienced the I don't want to say authentic one, but I have never been through that. So if I start teaching what Thanksgiving is and dinner is like in Japan, I have to interpret it. I have to kind of simplify it or modify it. And this is very passive aggressive. This is not exactly the case what's happening, but this is how I feel about it. Super Bowl is actually February, so there's other football Thanksgiving college. Yes, there we go. That's good. So I respect it. I really respect it, and I would like to follow at some point. But there's a limit as the immigrant too. I get the analogy, but I don't think anyone would really care if you started teaching Thanksgiving in Japan. That is very true too. That's probably it. And that's how I felt too, to be honest. I did not really care about it too much. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, did I care that somebody teaching Sashiko in English was this big deal? No, I did not think about it like that. So it's quite interesting. Things changes. Mac and cheese is more southern US side dishes for Thanksgiving. US is huge. Probably they have a different dishes based on the state and stuff like that. Okay, there might be another ad, so I will just little bit take a break. There might be another ad, and I will squish it right now. There might be some ad. I'm sorry. So I will take a little break, and then I will finish this much stitching, and then I will probably wrap it up for today. Was there anything I missed? Well, I would like to do some interview to my mother, probably at some point. So Susan's question, when and why did people teaching Sashiko in English become a big deal? When is 2019? There was like an incident, and why is, if I become quiet, the Sashiko we practice will be buried in the history. That's what I thought. That's what I felt. So, and I am kind of making it. I am from the family was making the living by making a part of that. So it is very, again, it's very extreme analogy. But let's say I am the turkey maker. I don't know what turkey maker is, but let's say I raise the turkey for the Thanksgiving so people can enjoy the turkey. And the turkey maker, turkey farmer, turkey breeders, they appreciate I don't know why they eat turkey, so this analogy is kind of weird, but at the same time, that's their tradition to eat turkey. So that's the culture they try to preserve. And that's kind of family traditions they try to preserve. Outside of their country, let's say in Japan, they are saying like Thanksgiving, you can use any meat. And it does not matter. As long as it's tasty, it does not matter what you eat. As long as it's kind of stuffed and cooked. So there's not, so teaching if the teaching involves everything as much as they can, that's perfect. I wouldn't be making it so big deal. But in order to teach Sashiko in English, they have to define that's the requirement in teaching in this world, especially in the dualism world in Western. So that's it. That's probably it. What changed that 10 years ago you didn't care? Did the teachers in English change or did you change? I don't think I was speaking up about before 2019. I was not saying that teaching is that big of a deal. No, I don't think so. So, I'm not gonna probably stitch. Well, let me try stitch. I'll finish this much. Before that, I will come back to this topic. Leiko-san, thank you so much for the comment. I don't know the name of the dish, and today live is busy looking after it actually. Yes, enjoy. There's a dish called stuffing, is probably what literally means stuffing to the turkeys, I guess. And they're pretty tasty. It's really interesting though, the Japanese did not implement Thanksgiving to their routine. They have Christmas and Easter. Do they have Easter? Maybe not. They do have a Valentine's Day and Christmas for sure. And right now Black Friday is there, but not a Thanksgiving itself. I'll talk about why. 10 years ago, I was still here. I was not in the rush. I was not like this. It was 2019. That's actually the same time I learned the concept of cultural appropriation, gaslighting, microaggressions, and those words that I sometimes use with confusion. So it was 19. Susan, that's very educational. So if like it's a kind of bread, I'm sorry if it's wrong. I'm so sorry. Like if it's like a bread pieces, if it's cooked inside of the turkey, that is called stuffing. If it's cooked outside separately, it's called dressing. Wow. See, I don't know anything about those things. So yes, that was 2019. And before that, I don't think I was saying that Sashiko introduced in English is insufficient. It's not wrong or right. It's not right or wrong. It's just not enough. It's quite recent. I was not saying that in 2019 neither. It's quite recent. And why is quite simple, that I would like to make sure that what I received will be, I want it to be preserved somehow. Like losing the sense of losing the part of their life that I respected so much, like losing the identity, kind of losing my own home, losing my own place to go back. It's like somebody painting my house to the different color that I don't really like. Like, the pink is beautiful, so why don't we color your house to the pink? We'll do it, you like it. I don't. And so those analogies not gonna really, articulate the issue. But at the same time, there were not that many teachers back then. It's really recent trend. I don't know if I can say that I contributed to this trend, but I decided to share everything online so that it can be passed down. It may actually encourage others to teach because there is information available online. At the same time, there were not that many, like the teachers I know from, let's say 2000, 2010, I really don't have a problem with them. If I had a problem with them, I would have said already something. But they were, if I have a problem with them, that's probably they are writing this trend. And also simplifying the trend. No, not trend, simplifying the word. No, not a word, simplifying the culture itself. So, yeah, it's very recent. To answer that Susan's question, it is very recent. It's only a few years ago, and I don't think this is something I don't remember because the COVID pretty much destroyed my brain. But I don't really have the short-term memory or even long-term memory for that. But I don't think I was speaking this much out 2 years ago. There was something something changed. I think there was a series of kind of trolls, internet trolls, made me, or I had to speak up to sort of protect myself. They defined the wrong, not a wrong, they defined something insufficient as the right answer to justify that they are right. And they are not right. They're not wrong, but they're not right. In order to justify my side that they are not right or wrong, I had to speak up. And before 2019, it was not that much of opportunities because there were many people who did not know what Sashiko was. I think today, now, 2023, 2022, many people think they know what Sashiko is already. So they try to kind of teach me what Sashiko is. There was the argument in Instagram as well. So that person purely believed that Sashiko is the word for the mending, visible mending. So he or she could not change that understanding no matter what. As the result, he thought that Sashiko is going to be the universal word for the visible mending whenever he goes to somewhere. Probably in his city, in his community, that is probably true. But that's kind of the change already. So many people think they know what Sashiko is because the definitions or answers are everywhere, which is not wrong, but not enough. So that is why I have a more urge or necessity or need to speak up. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. So the trend expedited. The way your mother takes commission is a good way not to get burned out by customers treating her as if she was a machine. Yeah, thank you so much for understanding that. It's a nightmare. As a child, as a son, as a child of that mother, as the sort of business partner of that my mother's Sashiko work, as the translator between the customers and her, that's a nightmare. It's very difficult to communicate, and not many people understand or even willing to take that offer, but that's how she wants to enjoy it. If somebody tells her what to do, she does not enjoy it. So she says that, don't tell me what to do so you can decide to buy it or not at the end of the production. So she makes two pieces. It's usually yin and yang, so front or back, dark side, light side. Well, I mean, it's not like, good or bad, but she makes two sides of the thing. Interestingly, nobody declined that. She gets what they want. She manifest. Manifest? No. She make it happen, so that's an interesting thing. Visible mending become popular, so maybe that's why people started equaling Sashiko with mending. Yes, and also this trend, like social media needed or need a keyword to describe what they do. Sustainable fashion, slow stitching, visible mending, upcycling, recycling, meditative stitching, slow stitching. Did I say slow stitching? Handmade. Those, all of those keyword needed some fancy word, and it happened to be there, Sashiko. Nobody, that people think that it's gonna explain everything, they would like to carry it. In fact, it doesn't. But not that many Japanese are saying that it does not equal to that meaning. But again, if they would like to, if they have their own reason to get those information, if they have own kind of goal to use that word, they don't really look. You hear. Thank you so much for watching this, but you are very strange side. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. At the same time, the majority of this trend, they don't want to hear this hours of non-defined stories. They would like to get the answer or essence of Sashiko in 1 or 10 seconds. 1 minute or 10 seconds. Like this length of the short video from the YouTube or TikTok. Otherwise, they don't want to listen to that. And they will try to find the answer they would like to hear. Until then, they don't stop. So for that, I think truth doesn't matter anymore. And that's why it's kind of scary. If I stop speaking up, it might be gone. Yeah, it might be exaggerating it. I think that's how I feel about it. And it's not about the I'm not saying teachers are bad. It's just this is how the world moves right now. The customers expect the teachers to say what they want to hear. And in order for the teacher to be in the better career or make money or get a famous, to achieve their teaching goal, they modify what they teach because they don't have that original experience. They're kind of borrowing that, so they don't mind changing it so easily. And as a result, that becomes a trend, and then the original form will be lost. Sometimes, at some point. And it is kind of stupid to go against that flow, but I don't have choice. So I hope this makes sense. I mean, my analogies are extreme, especially on the live streaming. My analogies are quite extreme because when I use it on Instagram or in my workshop, I think about it over and over and over, and I kind of sophisticated, make it sophisticated. But here I'm just speaking out of my brain, so I don't want to take it too seriously, but that's how I feel, without any editing, without any modifying. That's the beauty of this live streaming, because you are hearing what I feel. Your mother's commission work could be a TV show. People come to her for new Sashiko code and she sees something deep and hidden inside of them and bring it out in Sashiko. Yeah, if the producer can wait 12 months or even more than that, in that 12 months of production, nobody can talk to her about it. Even I cannot. I cannot even I cannot ask her how is it going. She is going to be very, very unhappy if I ask that. Like, you know, it has been 10 months, how is it going? Like, can I see the photo of that? That's not a good idea. I mean, she's not gonna be like angry at me, but I know she's not happy about it. Alright, anyway, thank you so much for coming to this Sashiko Live streaming on the Thursday night. As I said, I think I will be here on the next week, Thursday night, which is the Thanksgiving night. If not, I will announce that in the community tab. So if you see that I happen to have the meeting or party somewhere, I will mention that there, but most likely I will be stitching anyway. And if you're watching this as the archive or highlight, your comment, your questions will be used. I will talk about it in the next live streaming, so your comment will be very much appreciated. Otherwise, I hope you will have a very good night. I hope you keep stitching, and I hope to see you in the next week. All right.